Time to find my roots.
Please tell me Ghana.
Yes. Hold up.
It just says
82% African.
this doesn't tell me anything.
Nothing specific. I mean, like, what's my tribe?
Uh-oh. Looks like you took the wrong test.
And what's the right test?
African Ancestry is the only company that can provide present-day countries and ethnic groups.
In 2008, actor Isaiah Washington from Grey's Anatomy took a DNA test. His results traced him to the Mende people of Sierra Leone, and the discovery was so powerful that the country granted him dual citizenship, the first African American to do so based on DNA evidence. That test didn't come from 23andMe. It came from African Ancestry, a small black-owned company that charges triple the price of its billion-dollar competitors. Their promise? To sell you back something priceless, your identity. And behind that promise is one of the boldest, riskiest business stories we've ever covered here on Aggressive Intelligence. Before African Ancestry came along, the genetic testing industry was booming, but not for everyone. Companies like 23andMe and AncestryDNA dominated the consumer DNA market. By the late 2000s, millions of people were swabbing their cheeks and learning they were 38% Irish, or 22% Scandinavian. For people of European descent, the tests were detailed, almost fun party tricks. But for African Americans, the results were often vague and unsatisfying. A test might come back as 65% Sub-Saharan African, a broad label covering thousands of ethnic groups across a continent. Imagine paying $99 and being told essentially, you're from Africa somewhere. Why? Because most of the reference databases, the DNA samples used for comparison, were overwhelmingly European. That's who the companies built their businesses around. Africa, with its hundreds of ethnic groups and complex genetic diversity, was underrepresented. For Black Americans, it was a double erasure, first through slavery, which severed ancestral ties, and then again through science, which couldn't offer meaningful answers. This gap in the industry wasn't just a blind spot, it was an opportunity. And that's the space African Ancestry would step into. There was another growing issue in DNA testing: privacy. Big players like AncestryDNA and 23andMe didn't just sell tests. They built business models around collecting genetic data. Some of that data was sold or licensed to pharmaceutical companies for research. In 2018, 23andMe struck a $300 million deal with GlaxoSmithKline. For many customers, that raised unsettling questions. Who really owns my DNA? For African Americans, the concerns went deeper. Black communities in the U.S. have a long history of medical exploitation and mistrust, from the Tuskegee syphilis experiment to Henrietta Lacks's cells being taken without consent. Handing over DNA to a billion-dollar corporation felt risky. This is where African Ancestry found another niche. They promised something the giants didn't. We only test your maternal or paternal line. We don't sell or share your DNA. We destroy 100% of your samples after testing. For a community that values trust and ownership, that privacy pledge became a selling point. It wasn't just about finding your roots, it was about keeping your data safe. And with those two problems, vague African results and privacy fears, the stage was set for African Ancestry to make its move. The story starts with Dr. Rick Kittles, a geneticist who had spent years studying African DNA. At Howard University's National Human Genome Center, Kittles helped establish a program to build one of the largest African lineage databases in the world. But Kittles wasn't a marketer. Enter Dr. Gina Paige, a businesswoman with a background in marketing. Together, they saw an opportunity. Mainstream DNA companies weren't designed for African Americans. Where 23andMe would say, you're 45% Sub-Saharan African, Paige and Kittles wanted to say, you're Yoruba from Nigeria, or you're Mende from Sierra Leone. That difference was everything. It turned vague percentages into identity restoration. And in 2003, African Ancestry was born. African Ancestry priced their tests at about $299, triple the cost of rivals. But instead of more data, they promised more meaning. Unlike competitors, their tests analyze either the maternal line, via mitochondrial DNA, or the paternal line, via Y chromosome DNA. If your lineage matches their database, you get a country and an ethnic group. And when they're done, they say they destroy 100% of your DNA sample. a privacy stance that contrasts with the data-sharing controversies that hit bigger players. Their marketing strategy? Grassroots. They didn't buy Super Bowl ads. They went to black churches, HBCUs, and cultural festivals, hosting group reveals and heritage events. Then came the celebrity endorsements. Isaiah Washington's Sierra Leone story made headlines. Whoopi Goldberg's results linked her to the Papal and Bayoti peoples of Guinea-Bissau. Oprah Winfrey, during the mid-2000s DNA on TV boom, identified with Zulu ancestry. Filmmaker Spike Lee used DNA testing to trace his roots to Cameroon and other parts of West Africa. By tying the brand to cultural pride and black excellence, Paige and Kittles made African Ancestry a luxury identity brand. The results weren't just numbers, they were life-changing. Customers cried when they discovered their tribes. Families planned trips to Africa to reconnect with their roots. Some even received citizenship offers in their ancestral countries. Isaiah Washington wasn't the only one. Other African Americans used their African Ancestry results to deepen ties abroad. African Ancestry became a fixture in documentaries, classrooms, and museums. For many, it wasn't just a test. It was a healing tool for the wounds of slavery and disconnection. But no bold business comes without controversy. Scientific skepticism. Historians and geneticists caution that tribal-level assignments should be read as probabilistic, not absolute. African reference panels are relatively small and uneven, and ethnic identities have shifted over time. Critics say African Ancestry risks overselling certainty when marketing "Find Your Tribe." Customer complaints. The Better Business Bureau logs periodic complaints about delays in communication. Some customers say they paid hundreds, waited months, and got results they found vague or disappointing. Value for money debate. At $299, you only get one lineage result, either maternal or paternal. That's less data than 23andMe, which offers health info and cousin matching. Critics argue African Ancestry charges luxury prices for less product. Database limits versus niche strength. African Ancestry maintains a specialized database covering hundreds of African ethnic groups, one of the most detailed Africa-focused panels in the world. But in raw numbers, it's still smaller than the massive global datasets of AncestryDNA and 23andMe, which have millions of customer samples. That's both a limitation and the company's unique strength. They're narrow, but deep. They focus where the giants have historically been weakest. Africa. Before we dig into the business legacy, let's pause. If you're into stories like this, where business isn't just about profit, but about culture, power, and identity, hit that subscribe button and join us here at Aggressive Intelligence. We uncover the hidden business files behind the brands shaping our world. All right, let's get back into it. So how successful has African Ancestry been? The company is private, so exact revenue isn't disclosed. But here's a ballpark. At $299 per test, selling 10,000 kits a year brings in about $3 million annually. Over 2 decades and with hundreds of thousands tested, lifetime sales plausibly reach into the multi-million range. That's nothing compared to Ancestry.com's $4.7 billion sale in 2020. But remember, African Ancestry is a small team of maybe 10-20 employees. Their strength is not scale, it's niche domination. They own the cultural conversation around Black identity and genetic testing, and that authenticity has kept billion-dollar competitors from fully stealing their lane. So what do you think? Is African Ancestry a genius business that restored identity and built millions in revenue? Or a company walking a fine line between science and storytelling? Either way, their story proves one thing. In business, the most valuable thing you can sell isn't always a product. Sometimes, it's belonging. Thanks for watching Aggressive Intelligence, where we uncover the business files that shape culture and history. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments, would you pay $300 to learn your tribe? Because behind every brand, there's a power move worth knowing.